The 2000s were an interesting decade in pop music. I feel like there were so many stars with these huge moments. They certainly weren't one-hit wonders, they had some of the most popular songs and albums of the decade, but for whatever reason that couldn't be maintained. Nelly Furtado, Gwen Stefani, and Fergie instantly come to mind. Natasha Bedingfield does as well. She has some of the most recognizable hits of the 2000s, yet as time went along, she began having issues with her label, and her career suffered as a result. Natasha Bedingfield comes from a musical family. Her brother, who was a hitmaker in his own right, having the bulk of his success in the UK. And initially Natasha had a similar success story in her home territory. Her debut single became a top 3 hit in the UK. It introduced Natasha as an R&B flavored pop artist, who centered focus on empowerment. With her second single, These Words, a song written out of frustration, due to her label pressuring her to make another hit, she proved to strike gold twice. However, it was the title track of her debut album, Unwritten, released in 2004, that led to Natasha's true breakthrough. Speaking of the inspiration behind Unwritten, she said it was largely about her brother. He was 14 at the time, so I was like, what does a 14-year-old need to hear? What do I wish that I'd heard, she explained. The writers that I was working with that day weren't really feeling it. They wanted to write more sexy songs. So I just put the poem in my pocket and I thought, I'll save it for a different session. It was in another session shortly after that she met her co-writer, noted to be a session of productivity, where everything just flowed and they bounced ideas off of each other, back and forth. And the result was her biggest hit, Unwritten. Natasha's sister and friends did choir-like vocals that are heard in the bridge. Unwritten quickly snuck its way into pop culture, peaking at number 5 in the US and number 6 in the UK, becoming the most played song on US radio in 2006, and being featured in various different TV shows and movies, such as Degrassi, The Hills, and Pretty Little Liars, just to name a few. Her debut album, simply titled Unwritten, proved to be a success. Natasha's second album, titled NB in the UK and Pocketful of Sunshine in the US, released in 2007, had split promotion. Natasha often struggled with feeling like she had abandoned her home country. The term is often referred to as geo-blocking. I would release something in America and then it wouldn't come back to England, she said. I sang at the White House for Obama and my mom was like, I can't even watch it on the internet. I hated that and felt like maybe my UK fans felt that I left them, which was just never the case, and honestly I couldn't say anything about it because I was signed to my label, and I didn't want to alienate myself with them. Nonetheless, her second album produced big hits in both the UK and USA, with I Wanna Have Your Babies and Soulmate continuing her streak of top 10 singles in the UK. Love Like This alongside Sean Kingston became a top 15 hit in the US. The song is a bubbly R&B pop song with heavily processed vocals. Pocketful of Sunshine was the standout song, and became her biggest chart hit in the US, tying Unwritten. However, the song wasn't released in Europe until 2011, and served as the lead single of her third album titled Strip Me, released in 2010. The way her label handled her career was a bit odd. Strip Me, released in 2010, prioritized the American music market, completely abandoning the UK, where she was statistically more successful. However, the album flopped in America, only having one single to touch the charts, and the single peaked at number 91. The album also contributed to the narrative that Natasha had no longer catered to her European fans. Around this time, Natasha also collaborated with Nicki Minaj on her debut album Pink Friday, with the album's closer. At this point in time, a new crop of superstars were emerging as well, and popular music was leaning more towards club-oriented sounds. In 2012, she seemed to be working on an album that moved in that direction, enlisting popular producers of the time such as Red One, Dr. Luke, and Benny Blanco. However, the album was never released. Somewhere along the lines, she quietly parted with her label and went on an extensive hiatus. She alluded to her break being a result of label politics and her wanting to live life. I recently left my deal with the major label I've been with my whole career, and I felt really free doing that. I was free to sign with an indie label and write an album that is in that flow we're hoping for. She is also quoted saying, "It's almost worse to be overexposed or to be in someone's life too much. I don't think it's a bad thing for an artist, especially a songwriter, to withdraw for a bit and live a bit of life. She is very self-aware and knows that people believe she completely disappeared. She is also well aware that she is mostly known for her happy songs. Speaking about the legacy of songs such as Unwritten, she said, "I love that that song has surpassed me. When people sing that song, they're not actually thinking about me. They're thinking about something in their life and a moment that that song represents for them, and I love that." In 2017, she became a mother and said it was the happiest New Year she's ever experienced. In 2019, she broke her musical hiatus to independently release her fourth album, Roll With Me, in which she worked alongside famed producer and writer Linda Perry to bring her vision for the album together. In 2021, Natasha received a resurgence of sorts on TikTok, with a remixed version of Unwritten gaining traction on the app. She took it a step further by actually connecting with the youth and performing with the creators of the challenge, as well as doing videos with them. Natasha Bedingfield was a perfect artist for the 2000s, just before everything became supersized and over the top in the early 2010s. She had a rather simple and positive persona that she keeps true to even in a world of TikTok. And she's doing what makes her happy independently. We'd of course like to think that the rest of Natasha's story is still unwritten.